Good afternoon, guys, and welcome to the podcast. Today, I've got an entrepreneur, Rob Tracz from Connecticut, and he guides entrepreneurs to look, feel, and do great things. He's got a really interesting background in exercise science and has years of experience as a performance coach. And so I'm really happy to have him on and to talk about his work and some very interesting concepts for the audience to inspire them and add value. So, Rob, welcome.
Hey, thank you so much for having me on. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. Yeah. We go by first name and for the podcast and talk about your background, your journey, and how it led you to do the work that you're doing now.
Yeah, so my background is in strength and conditioning, and in that industry, typically people go two different kind of paths. You either go in the collegiate setting or you go in the private sector. Neither of which really is helpful and putting the coach's perspective and health in perspective. It's usually just a lot of hours, gym super early, gym super late kind of thing, clients and teams and sports back to back. And for me, I went the private sector route, and I went this direction because it gave me the taste of entrepreneurship. It allowed me to create my own schedule and work my own hours and with whoever I wanted to, whenever I wanted to. And for me, as a go-getter through my whole life with sports and things, I quickly scaled my book up to a point where I was working 13 to 15-hour days, 7 days a week for about 3 years straight. And during that time, gone through missed a lot of different experiences and events and weddings, birthdays, and friends, kids being born, things like that. But most importantly, I missed out on family time with my loved ones. And most importantly, there would be my father. He had stage 4 pancreatic cancer. And instead of spending time with him, I chose to continue working. So then I missed out on a lot of the remaining minutes he had left. And it wasn't for about a year later from there when I had been totally burnt out and schedule was jammed packed, when I realized that, hey, I needed to change something because I barely recognized who I was. And that's where my performance coaching really came into play. And I started to develop that. I reflected on what had worked for me in the past, what had brought me success in sports and just as an individual, split parents. And I took all the things that I've learned over the years to really create what I call now prime performance coaching. And I help other driven individuals who are right on that verge of more, where they're knocking at the door, they're trying everything. They're experiencing a little bits of burnout, but most importantly, they're just stuck and they can't get through to the next level. This is where I come in and I help them figure out, bring awareness to what they're doing, really pay attention to what works well for them and help them get to the next level.
Yeah. Yeah. It's always those, you realize that it's the relationships and the family and the experiences. And so you talked about your early journey from burnout to breakthrough, and you mastered the entrepreneurial journey with prime performance. One thing that was really stood out to me when we were discussing is this concept of luck and luck creation. And there was a really great book that I came across. It was like how the lucky get luckier, and there's actually a science of luck. It's not just so. Talk about your views on luck, how to create luck, what it is, and how to create it.
Yeah, to me, luck is just when preparation meets opportunity. So when you do all that you can to prepare and you set yourself up and you stack the deck in your favor, it's just a matter of time of creating the opportunities, where to knock on the doors and who to have conversations with. And at that point, it looks like luck and success just happens overnight. But the first half of that equation is all that preparation. That's where a lot of the time, effort, and everything goes into it. So when you're grinding and working behind the scenes and you're really building yourself up as a better individual, as soon as opportunity comes and you're prepared, you just boom, suddenly look like the luckiest person alive. And then it's like an instant automatic overnight success without looking at all the years of work ahead of time.
One thing and I love to compare and contrast. And so you have this with your background in sports. It reminds me of the Tom Brady, like when he was starting out early on and he didn't get a lot of lucky breaks and he was just building his reps. And then all of a sudden he's catapulted into the spotlight. But what about those people that kind of grind they do their work, day in, day out, and they never get lucky. What's going on with them?
That just we have to look into it, seeing how well they're preparing. Are they really, are they setting themselves up? Are they making a lot of connections? Are they challenging themselves with new hobbies and challenges, pushing their comfort zone? Are they continuing to learn by intentionally consuming motivational, educational content, expanding their personal like repertoire on different topics and skills that they have? Are they also clear on where they're going, or are they just aimlessly just following chaos and just following day by day? Or are they stacking up and optimizing their rules and routines so that they can live the life that they need to? That's all the preparation stuff. Once you get all of that stuff going and you can check all those different boxes, opportunity is left and right, and you just need to be able to look and see where it is. So if you are an individual who is doing a lot of preparation, like you're the person who's constantly challenging yourself physically, mentally, you're intentionally consuming, you're clear on where you're trying to go, you're efficient, you're social, and you've got a great system around you. If you're doing all of that and you still aren't seeing the success that you're looking for, chances are you're not looking in the right places, or your filters are skewed and you're looking into the wrong lens. And then at that point, it's okay, how do we change the lens so it's more aligned with where we're trying to go to? Because there's opportunity all around us. And it's just, you got to be able to open the eyes and see where it is.
Hmm. How does one view destiny? Because there's some people that are when I was in my early 20s, I trained with Olympic athletes, and a lot of them were like, they did what you were describing, but there was this idea of like destiny. And some of the athletes, they did not believe in destiny, or they believed that they created their success. And it wasn't like if they failed, it was them. And some of them were like, well, if it's meant to be, it'll come. So how do you factor in this idea of destiny?
Yeah, that's an interesting topic because I think it comes down to individual beliefs and what you can do, what you can control. I think like leaving it to destiny is taking like a backseat approach to it, in my opinion. I fully believe that you can go out and achieve what you set your mind to it. And I had no idea that I wanted to be a speaker and a coach and performance. I didn't no idea. I originally wanted to just be a gym teacher, but I had gone out. I went through one path. I changed one thing. I realized I love working with kids, but I don't think I wanted to be sitting in there because I was always, one of my values is striving for excellence and mastery and pushing myself and continuing to learn. And then I was looking at different challenges, and then that led me to public speaking, and then that led me to this thing and coaching, and moved me all over the place. And so I don't know if destiny has me to be here or it has me doing something else. For all I know, I might end up being an astronaut one day. And I'm just going with the flow, and I'm just trying to show up the best that I can every day. There are going to be some days where I show up better than others, but the idea for me is to just make sure that I'm doing my best. I'm having fun while I'm doing it, and I'm trying to bring others along to ride with me.
I love that. It really reminds me, just because every day you cannot be your best, and some days you're not going to. So you have to. So how do you talk about building resilience and clarity, and what do you do when you have a down day?
Yeah, so I think taking a step back to just making sure that you have a decent level of awareness. The underlying message for all the different principles of my coaching is having awareness on certain aspects. So when you are having a down day, take a step back, reflect on, okay, is it actually a down day, or is it just a bad hour of the day? And if it is a bad day, is it a bad week? And how has the whole month been? How has the past quarter been? How has the whole year been? What am I looking forward to? And then once you have all this in perspective, then you can look and say, hey, maybe I've been grinding really hard. Maybe I've been in a sprint season for a little bit too long. Maybe it's time for me to turn off the gas and embrace a little bit of downtime and spend some time resting and reflecting on what I've got going on and prepare myself for another sprint season. Maybe this is the world or universe, or maybe it's just a sign that I need a little bit of a break. And it's having that awareness of what's going on, how I'm showing up every other day. If we're having a conversation and you're having a bad decade and you just can't be able to catch a break for 10 years straight, then maybe we need to figure out something else to do.
Yeah, that's really interesting, because I in my own life, and just I incorporate this sprint approach. And one thing that I've found is like these intense sprint periods, like lead to huge growth and gains. But then there's a time that you describe where you have to take your foot off the pedal. But the problem with entrepreneurs and type A and a lot of success driven oriented people is that they don't know how to take off the brakes. And when they do, they feel like they're missing out or feeling behind. How do you coach clients to deal with these emotions?
Yeah, again, it's going to go back to the awareness, to a little bit of reflection practice, checking in, seeing, hey, how have we been doing? How much have we been pushing? How have we been growing? And then also sometimes, I know for me specifically, I need a coach. I need somebody who can just tell me, hey, dude, it's time to pump the brakes. You need to change gears, slow things down, take a week or two, take a month, try to spend some downtime so you can build and grow something bigger and better for the next season. And sometimes that's all it really takes, is just having a coach or a mentor who can just give it to you straightforward and being like, hey, dude, listen, calm down. Or, hey, dude, you need to start working because you've been slacking.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, especially sometimes like if your diet, your sleep, your exercise is off, then everything else comes off. And then or when you're just like when you're going 100 miles an hour and you see all these, and then it's really hard because you're like, oh, you can press in more, but then at the expense of kind of relationships or your health and things like that. So it's really interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Uh,
think also a good strategy is making sure that you have a deadline or at least a target for how long you're going to be pushing. Because when I was stuck back grinding, I call it robot mode.
yeah,
And robot mode's good. It's not necessarily a bad thing because robots are efficient. They get a lot of work done. The problem is being stuck in robot mode for too long. You start to lose the human awareness and component to what makes us uniquely human. So when you're stuck in it for too long and there's no deadline or target to end things, that sprint season just draws on, and eventually you're gonna gas out from that sprint.
yeah. Because I really love talking because a lot of my role models were just elite athletes and because they seem to have this entrepreneurs and it's very symbolic to business success. And how do you describe finding your edge, like that your cutting edge, either like productivity, could be your competitive edge. How would you describe it to the audience?
Finding your own competitive edge.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think we would sound like a broken record, but it's going to be awareness and reflection. I do this little exercise with a lot of my clients. I'm a big fan of Pirates of the Caribbean. I don't know if you've ever seen any of those movies, but I'm a big fan. So I tell them you got to fly your own pirate flag. So you got to figure out what your flag is, and flag is an acronym. So the first letter F is your foundational values. So what do you hold true to you? What keeps you operating? What is your foundational values? And then once you figure that out, because that's a little bit harder to work through, just a lot more thought process that you got to really dig deep into that. But the next one is L, and that's lifestyle traits. And that's a lot more fun to dive into. So it's okay, what's your favorite color? What kind of vehicle do you like to drive? What's kind of food do you do? What movies do you watch? Figuring those things out and then asking yourself, why do you like those things? And what about those things make it unique and bring joy to you? And why do you like those? And that's a little bit more fun. And then the next letter in flag is A for aspirations. So then we dive into our goals, where do we want to get to, where are we currently at, and very big, like 10-year, 5-year, 3-year, 2-year, 1 year, 6 months, and so on. So we can really figure out where we're trying to direct the ship. And then the last one is G, or growth opportunity. So it's like a SWOT analysis. What are some of your strengths? Are you a good communicator? Are you better with tech? Are you somebody who is more creative? For me, I'm not very creative. So when ChatGPT came out, that really helped me with a lot of my different captions and social media and things like that. And then it got to a point where I needed to start producing more, and I just didn't have as much bandwidth. I needed to hire some virtual assistants to help me with the tech background. And then I wouldn't have known that. I would have just continued to grind out on a lot of these things if I didn't spend the time reflecting and really learning about my own strengths and weaknesses. And then once you have your foundational values, your lifestyle traits, your aspirations, and your growth opportunities, you figure out what makes you unique. And then that can direct you and drive you wherever you need to go.
yeah, interesting. I really love that acronym flag. We're coming towards the end, and I love your idea of intentional, and you talk about intentions in terms of consumption, but also you also apply intentional to be like intentional in your awareness and your focus and what you're thinking. So how does intention help clients in all areas of their life, the power of intention?
Yeah, so that started really from my nutrition background, helping athletes optimizing their game. And then really, I worked with kids and even myself. There were times where I'm like, oh, I need to make sure I'm eating all of this like candy and I need pizza and pasta and stuff to optimize all these carbs and sugar. And then realizing that like when I eat certain ways, it might make me a little more sluggish, but then not just on the field, but also cognitively too.
Yeah.
So then I started taking that another step. So maybe it's not just your dietary nutrition, maybe it's also your digital nutrition. So the types of music that you're listening to, the types of podcasts you're listening to, are they entertaining podcasts or are they educational and inspiring like this one here? And what kind of books and things are you listening to, TV shows? Because all that stuff, you might be turning your brain off and just vegging out to watching Netflix. But is that really helping you get to where you want to go? Especially if it's a sprint season where you need to be dialed in, you should be listening to great podcasts like this. You got to be listening to educational books that are going to help motivate you and move you forward. And then it comes with that intentional component though, because if you go all the time, you're going to burn out. You're going to overcook yourself. And it's okay to have cookies and cake every once in a while. And it's okay to binge out on Netflix every once in a while. So it's all about the intention. What season are you in? And what are you trying to fuel yourself for?
Yeah. It's really interesting because like I haven't watched TV, like quote TV in 20 years. I'm on Audible or podcasts or YouTube. And I know a couple of my friends, they're like they love Netflix, but they only watch it like when their mental energy is down, but it's like inspiring. It shows billions or things that they find inspiring or just to keep them
Yeah.
going. I love this. Go ahead.
Do you know who Grant Cardone is?
He's a real estate guy, right? This
Yeah,
guy,
he's the
10X
10,
guy.
10X guy. Yeah. He was on this TV show I was watching called Undercover Billionaire.
Yeah.
And just watching him and all the other contestants on there just start with nothing and just build $1 million business in 90 days without anything. That just got me so amped. I remember watching it for the first time. I'm like, no way, this is awesome. Ah, that
Yeah.
really just motivated me.
Yeah, I really love that. One final question, because I think we're on the same wavelengths. And what practical strategies do you offer for entrepreneurs to maintain energy, clarity, and focus? Like what sort of activities or hobbies or routines, habits while managing a demanding business?
Yeah, the biggest thing I'm going to say is making sure that you're paying attention to what works for you as an individual. So if you're somebody who can sprint for a much longer period of time, then good, keep the sprint going, but make sure you also adjust the dials and take it back at a moment. But then also if you're somebody who needs to just quick little burst and then also spend a significant amount of time reloading, then that's good too. But paying attention to what works for you. And the best way to do that is to develop some sort of a reflection practice. A lot of people like to meditate. A lot of people like to journal. A lot of people do X, Y, and Z, hit the gym, go for walks, whatever it may be. For me personally, it's journaling because that allows my brain to slow down because then it takes me a little bit longer to type things out and I can't process through the words as much as I do when I'm talking. So that forces me to slow down and then I can reflect on what I just wrote, which is the double period for me to reflect. And then I can really dive in to be like, hey, what have I been doing this past month or what have I done this week or what did I do yesterday? And it really helps my brain with memory. It helps me plan ahead for the future. And it just is a great reflection tool for me, at least. And it helps me continue to move forward with my business and life.
Oh, interesting. Fascinating. And recently I was talking with a guest about meditation, and she was talking about how she has two types of meditation. One is this just slow her brain down, and there's another type of meditation. She calls it dynamic, where it helps her to intensify her focus or kind of visualize what she wants and help her manifest or things like that. I don't know if you have any things to add about meditation.
Yeah, I mean, I love meditating, and I feel like when I do it consistently, like going back to the whole creating your own luck. That is a secret that I don't even know how to explain. Because when I meditate so consistently, I just happen to have people randomly popping up like, hey, are you taking on new clients? Hey, what's going on with this product? Or hey, can I do that? And it just feels so great. So I try to do it because I have that n equals one kind of thing. But for me, I used to get so frustrated with meditating because I would get so angry because I would try to meditate and I'm like, oh, I'm not doing it right. I'm not doing it right. And then I realized that it's unique to you. So it's all about just slowing down your thoughts, giving yourself a mental timeout or a break, and just allowing yourself to just breathe
Yeah.
and then move forward. And there is a right or wrong way, just like journaling and like a lot of other things. It's about figuring out what works for you and then just continuing to do it. If it works well and it feels good, just keep going with it.
Yeah. Fascinating. Yeah. How can people find you and learn more about you, connect with you, work with you?
Sure. Yeah. The easiest place to find me is on social media, either at LinkedIn or on Instagram. Instagram is usually where I'm hanging out most of these days. And handle is just at Rob Tracz. It's first and last name. And yeah, I'm always there to answer any questions.
Yeah. Awesome. I really enjoyed this conversation and keep up the great work.
Hey, thank you so much for having me on today.